Welcome to today's Deep Dive. I'm your host, and today we're looking at a situation that I think literally everyone listening has experienced.
Hey everyone, yeah, glad to be here to unpack this one because it really is a universal pain point.
It really is. So picture this. It is Tuesday night, you're streaming a movie, or maybe you're trying to upload a massive slide deck for work, and suddenly silence.
The worst.
Right, the absolute worst. You get the spinning wheel of death, so you do the ritual, you unplug the router, count to 10, plug it back in.
And nothing happens.
Nothing. So you resign yourself to your fate, you pick up your phone, and you call your provider, and after, 20 minutes of terrible hold music, you finally get a human being on the line, and what is the very first thing they ask you?
Have you tried restarting your router?
Exactly. It makes my blood boil every time. It feels so patronizing. But I was reading through this stack of research we have for today's deep dive, and I actually had a realization that made me feel a little sympathetic toward that support agent.
Yeah, because half the time, they don't know what's wrong either.
Right. They are guessing just as much as you are.
It's a highly chaotic environment. I mean, we tend to think of these massive telecom companies as having these omniscient control rooms, but the reality on the ground is often just frantic people staring at 5 different screens that don't talk to each other.
And that leads us to the stat that really hooked me for this deep dive. The data we're looking at claims a staggering 22% of site-down tickets for telcos.
Nearly a quarter.
Yeah, nearly a quarter of all their major red alert incidents are actually just power outages.
Right.
Not broken fiber cables, not fried servers, not a software bug, just the local power grid went down.
And that single data point is really the catalyst for everything we are talking about today. We're diving into a partnership that is shaking things up right now, specifically in the lead up to the Mobile World Congress in Barcelona next week.
Right.
We are looking at 2 companies, Gisual and Notch.
And just for context, today is February 23rd, 2026. MWC starts on March 2nd. So this is incredibly timely stuff.
Very timely.
And the whole mission here is about closing what the sources call the experience gap, moving telcos from reactive panic, which is where most of them live, to proactive resolution. But before we get into the solution, I want to stay on the problem for a minute.
Yeah, let's do that.
Because power outages sound simple, but the implication for a telco is massive.
The sources actually call it the invisible problem.
Right. So take me inside the Network Operations Center, the NOC. I've always pictured these places like NASA Mission Control. Giant screens, guys in headsets who know if a sparrow lands on a wire in Nebraska.
Right.
But the sources describe something much messier. They use the term swivel chair workflow.
Yeah, and let's be clear. Swivel chair is not about the furniture. In the industry, that is shorthand for friction. It's alt-tab hell.
Okay.
Imagine you're an NOC technician. An alarm goes off, Tower 42 is down, you check your network dashboard, and it says the device is unreachable.
Okay.
But is the device broken, or is the building dark? Your dashboard can't tell you.
So what do?
They swivel, they physically turn to another monitor, open a browser, and start Googling local utility websites.
You are kidding.
No, seriously. They look up the Duke Energy outage map, or PG&E status, or, and this is still happening in 2026, they pick up a telephone and call the power company. Hey, do you guys have lines down on Main Street?
That is wild to me. You have these billion-dollar networks running 5G speeds, and they are dependent on a guy manually refreshing a utility company's website.
Exactly. And because that process is slow and unreliable, because maybe the utility map isn't updated yet, the telco defaults to the most expensive option, the truck roll.
And I want to dig into the cost of this because the sources are brutal on this point. A truck roll sounds innocuous, but think about the logistics. You are dispatching a highly trained, highly paid technician. They get in a van, burn gas, drive maybe 45 minutes to a rural tower site.
They arrive, unlock the gate, look at the cabinet, and realize the lights are off. The equipment is fine, it's just a power cut. There is literally nothing for them to fix. So they mark the ticket, no trouble found, and drive home.
That is the definition of waste. And the numbers here are huge. One of the case studies from Gisual mentions a Tier 1 mobility provider, we're talking one of the big giants, that saved 14,000 non-productive dispatches.
That is massive.
That is 14,000 times a technician drove to a site for absolutely no reason.
And the return on investment is immediate. They cite $3.5 million saved for that provider. Another ISP with just 1 million subscribers saved $1.1 million.
Incredible.
When you factor in that handling a single support ticket costs the company about $17 and a truck roll costs hundreds, the bleeding is just massive.
So Enter Gisual.
Mm-hmm.
They call themselves Power Outage Intelligence. Now, I have to play skeptic here for a second. How are they doing this? Are they just scraping those same utility websites faster than the human can? Because if that's all it is, it doesn't seem that revolutionary.
It's a fair question, but the complexity is in the fragmentation. There is no global power database. You have thousands of utility cooperatives, municipalities, and massive grid operators all using different data standards.
Right, a total mess.
Exactly. Some have APIs, some have maps, some basically have a Twitter feed. Gisual built a unified API.
So they are essentially the translator.
Yes. They ingest all that messy, disparate data from the physical power grid and normalize it. So the telco just queries the API, is there power at these coordinates? And Gisual returns a yes or no with 99% accuracy in seconds to minutes.
Okay, that makes perfect sense. It's infrastructure for infrastructure.
Mm-hmm.
The analogy I really liked from the notes was the medical one. It's like a doctor. If I walk in with a headache, I don't want an MRI immediately. I want the doctor to say, hey, you're dehydrated. Drink water.
Right. Gisual is the diagnostic tool that says, don't operate, the patient just needs electricity. And this distinction is becoming even more critical with the rise of 5G home internet.
Oh, that's a good point. I hadn't connected those dots.
Think about it. If your mobile phone loses a signal, it's annoying. But if your 5G home internet goes down, your house is offline. No streaming, no Zoom calls, no smart home devices.
You are totally cut off.
Exactly. The telco is effectively becoming the utility. If the tower loses power, your home is dark digitally.
And if I'm a customer, I don't care why. I just know my Netflix stopped. I'm calling support.
And that brings us to the second half of this equation. Knowing the power is out having the data via Gisual is only step one.
Right.
Step two is, what do you do with that information? Because right now you have 10,000 angry customers queuing up in your chat support.
And this is where Notch comes in. Now, we need to address the elephant in the room here. AI customer support. I feel like most people hear that and groan. We have all dealt with those terrible chatbots that just loop you in circles until you scream agent 5 times.
You're absolutely right to be skeptical. The first wave of chatbots was not great, but the source material is very specific here. Notch is not a chatbot. They define themselves as an autonomous AI customer support agent.
Is that just marketing fluff? Agent versus bot.
No, the distinction is highly functional. A bot usually just retrieves information or follows a very simple script. An agent can execute workflows.
Okay.
It can log into systems, check status, issue credits, and update records. But the real differentiator for Notch is where they operate. Regulated industries.
So telco, banking, insurance.
Exactly. Industries where you cannot afford hallucinations. If you're running an e-commerce shop selling t-shirts and your AI makes up a return policy, you lose $20. It's annoying, but fine.
Right, a drop in the bucket.
But if a bank's AI lies about a fee structure or a telco's AI promises a refund that doesn't exist, that is a legal disaster. It's a compliance nightmare.
So how does Notch avoid the hallucination problem?
No.
Because large language models are famous for just making things up confidently.
They use a hybrid approach. It's not just generative AI riffing poetry. It's deterministic rules combined with LLMs. Think of the deterministic part as the guardrails, the strict company policies, the hard logic of if X, then Y.
So it can't deviate from the script.
Yeah. Right. The LLM is just the interface layer that makes it sound human and empathetic.
So it's creative in how it talks, but rigid in what it's allowed to do.
Precisely. It is SOC2 Type 2 compliant. It has full audit trails. Every decision is logged. And the results they are claiming are impressive. They say it can resolve 30% of tickets autonomously within 90 days of deployment.
There was a quote from the Guardio case study that really stood out to me. The CEO called it a commando support unit.
I loved that visual.
It really reframes the labor problem. Usually if your customer base doubles, your support staff has to double. It's a 1-to-1 ratio. But Guardio had a backlog of 20,000 tickets, which is terrifying for any company, and Notch cleared it in days.
It allows companies to decouple growth from headcount. You can scale massively, say during a holiday rush or a crisis, without having to frantically hire and train hundreds of humans.
Right.
Bookaway was another example mentioned in the sources. They used it to handle a massive volume spike during a crisis. It clears the noise so the human agents can focus on the really complex, weird edge cases.
Okay, so let's bring these two together. This is the synergy part of the deep dive. We have Gisual, which is the eye of Sauron seeing the power outages, and we have Notch, the commando unit that can talk to customers. The sources describe a closed-loop workflow. I want to walk through this from the customer's perspective because this is where it gets real.
Let's do it. Let's use a specific scenario. Let's say you're a guy named Dave. It's 8 p.m. and your internet dies.
Core Dave. Okay, so I'm Dave. I'm annoyed. I open the ISP's app or I text their support number.
Right. Step one is detection. The moment you initiate that contact, or even before Gisual's API has scanned your location, it sees that the utility grid in your neighborhood is down.
So before I even type my internet sucks, the system knows something I don't.
Correct. Step two is context. The system flags your issue. It knows this is not a router failure, this is not a fiber cut, this is environmental.
And step three is engagement. This is where Notch steps in.
Yes. Instead of a generic bot asking you to check your cables, Notch says, "Hi, Dave. We see there is a power outage in your area affecting our equipment."
Stop there for a second. The emotional shift in that moment is huge. If a company tells me, we know, and here is exactly why, my anger evaporates. I feel seen. I feel like they are competent.
Exactly. And then step four is resolution. Notch doesn't just identify the problem. It uses the utility data from Gisual to answer the one question you actually care about. When will it be back?
The estimated time of restoration.
Right. It pulls that from the utility data. It tells you, power is expected back at 9:30 p.m. We will notify you when your service is online.
And crucially, it tells me not to do anything. Don't reset your router. Don't change your settings. Just wait.
Which is the gift of time. You aren't crawling under your desk checking cables. And for the telco, that support ticket never gets opened. It never goes to a human.
And that operational relief must be staggering. If an outage hits 5,000 people, that's potentially 5,000 tickets you don't have to handle.
It is, but there is another layer of money saving here that's a bit more inside baseball, but very real: SLA credits.
Break that down for us.
Service level agreements. If you are a business customer, your contract often says, if the internet goes down, the telco owes us money. It's a penalty. But those contracts almost always have a force majeure clause. Basically, if it's not our fault, we don't pay.
Ah, I see. And a power outage is definitely not the telco's fault.
Right. But traditionally, proving it was a power outage was hard. It was anecdotal. With Gisual and Notch, the telco has immediate documented proof. Timestamped data that the root cause was external. They can automatically reject the claim for credits, potentially saving millions in refunds.
That is fascinating. It is accountability through data. It protects the telco from paying for things they didn't break.
And it creates that proactive experience.
Yeah.
We're moving from reactive support fixing things after people complain to proactive resolution.
I want to zoom out a bit to the Mobile World Congress context. The sources mention a concept called the expert was everywhere. It sounds a bit philosophical, but what does it mean practically for 2026?
It's about the fragmentation of how we communicate. Today, a customer might start a conversation on an app, get frustrated, switch to SMS, and then finally call in. Usually, that context is lost at every hop. You have to repeat your story 3 times.
The absolute worst. Please state your account number again.
Right. The expert was everywhere means that because Notch is integrated into the core systems, that context travels with you. But more importantly, the answer is consistent. Whether you text, call, or use the app, the system knows about the power outage. You get the expert-level diagnosis instantly on any channel.
And the fact that this is all part of the Microsoft for Startups Pegasus portfolio suggests this isn't just a science experiment.
No, that's a big signal. Being in the Pegasus program means high-level vetting. It means these solutions are enterprise-ready, scaling on Azure, and integrated into the Microsoft ecosystem. Telcos are risk-averse. They don't buy from garage startups, they buy trusted infrastructure. This badge gives them that trust.
Now, we've focused heavily on telco because of Gisual's power data, but the notes mention Notch works elsewhere too. E-commerce, finance. They listed Yves Rocher and Maylis as clients.
True. Notch's action engine, that ability to follow strict rules, works anywhere. But telco is unique because it straddles the digital and physical worlds. In e-commerce, a lost package is a logistical issue. In telco, the service is tied to the physical infrastructure of the planet. Cables, towers, grids.
That's a great distinction. The stakes are just higher. If my mascara doesn't arrive, I'm annoyed. If my hospital's internet goes down, it's a crisis.
Precisely. And that's why this combination is so potent. You need the physical world data from Gisual to make the digital action from Notch accurate. Without the data, the AI is just guessing politely. With the data, the AI is an expert.
It feels like we're looking at a new standard here. If one major telco starts doing this, texting me about outages before I even notice them, telling me exactly when the power will be back, the others are going to look archaic.
It's becoming a hygiene factor. In 2026, transparency isn't a premium feature, it is the baseline. If I have to tell you that your service is down, you have already failed as a service provider.
So we're summarizing this shift. We are moving from I'll open a ticket to here is exactly what is happening and when it will be fixed.
And doing it at scale without burning out human support teams or wasting millions on trucks chasing ghosts.
My big takeaway here is kind of ironic. We usually hero worship the support agent who stays on the line for an hour to fix a complex problem.
Right.
But in this case, the absolute best customer support is telling the customer, stop, do nothing. The problem is outside your house.
It is. It's the permission to do nothing. It turns a moment of high anxiety and confusion into a moment of trust. And frankly, it saves everyone a lot of time.
I want to leave everyone listening with a bit of a provocative thought. We're looking at a system here where AI diagnoses the physical world, the power grid, and simultaneously manages the human world, our emotions, and our questions. If this technology keeps evolving, what happens to the concept of waiting on hold?
That is the big question.
Are we approaching a future where the service calls us before we even know there's a problem? Imagine a world where you never have to dial a support number again because the solution arrives before the frustration does. The death of hold music.
That is a future I think we would all sign up for.
Definitely. Well, if you are at MWC next week, go check them out at the Microsoft booth on March 2nd. For everyone else, try not to restart your router until you've checked the power. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. We'll catch you on the next one.